Thanks everybody for joining us. We're going to just hold on a few minutes till a little bit after 12. A few minutes. Good afternoon, everybody. We're just going to give it another minute since the final reminder just went out. I think we got a bunch of people joining, and then we'll get started. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started with some introductions and some quick event overview. And so welcome everybody to NCLUG's Tech Talk for this week. Our topic is ORD Quickstart Geometry. And our speaker is going to be Dan Abram. But first I'm going to cover just some overviews of the presentation, some housekeeping rules. All attendees will be muted. And so we do have our chat box up and running this time. And so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. And then you could save all your questions till the end of the presentation, or you can feel free to put them in the chat box if you'd like. Note that the session will be recorded and then we'll post it on the nclug.com website, hopefully in a couple of days. NCLUG is offering PDH credits to those who have registered on the website for this event. So it's a way that we can link your name, the attendees' names, to your PE or PLS licensing number. If you were forwarded the minute link and joined us as a guest or by via phone, you'll just need to make sure that you allow us to know what your official name is and send that to events@nclug.com. We'll keep the event registration up until 3 p.m., but you need to go to our website and actually register for the event so you can get PDH credits for attending today. Stay tuned till the end of the presentation. We'll be holding a drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card to one lucky NCLUG member. And then we just want to be sure to encourage you to make sure that you sign up for the membership, which is free to join. That's kind of an overview of our housekeeping rules. We welcome everybody and hope you enjoyed today's Tech Talk. I'm going to now hand it over to Dan Abram with Bentley Systems. Thank you, Dan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dan Eskin from Bentley Systems, and I'm going to be your presenter today. Welcome. I'm going to be sharing my screen now, and really what I'm going to be doing is going through the training course that we use for geometry. It's called the Quickstart for Geometry for Road, and it is available on the Bentley on our Bentley Learn server, so that you could download the data and watch a video even if you wanted to, and also the book that I'm going to be teaching from. So welcome aboard, and if you have any questions, please type them in the chat and I'll get to them. Okay, so I've taken the liberty of creating the file. That's one of the first things they have you do in course. And one of the things I want to note about this is that this file up here is a 2D file. Okay, so when you're creating geometry in OpenRoads, you use a 2D seed file. All right, so that's very important. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to a box here, which is called the feature definition toggle bar or toolbar, and you could get that from going over here. And by the way, there's a thing called a workflow, and I'm going to completely do the whole presentation in this thing called OpenRoads Modeling, and these are the different options here, and there'd be different options also if you have a 3D file. There's going to be some other options in here, but I'm going to stick to using the OpenRoads Modeling, and then I'm going to go to a tab called Geometry. To get this first step here is before you create any geometry of any type, you would want to set what the feature definition is. Okay, so the feature definition really describes what the geometry is used for and things like that and how it annotates. All right, so to get this box right here, if you didn't have it up, you would go over here to the it's called the feature definition toolbar, and that would bring this box up. And so the first thing that you do with this box, and of course you could keep this box docked, and I normally do, but I'm bringing it to the center of your screen. And the first thing you do is you'd pick the feature definition of the alignment that you're going to create. So that would be under alignment, and then you have some choices, and depending on what these are customizable. So these are the training ones that are just an example, and yours could be different, but hopefully they'll be descriptive enough so that you could pick the right one without thinking about it. So you pick one here. We're going to use the geometry baseline, which is the baseline geometry we're creating here. And one of the things that you would do after you pick it is to set it active. And that means every command that actually places a piece of geometry would use that feature definition. Okay, so we have to set that active. That's an important step, and I'm going to park that back down in here. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and I'm going to zoom in closer. And normally, of course, you wouldn't have this on a project, a little circle where you would put your points of intersection, but for the training, we actually do that. And so the command that we're going to start to use here, I'm going to use here, and is this first one here, and it's under the horizontal. So I'm going to create horizontal geometry, and all the horizontal geometry commands are right here. All right, and a lot of them are, when you pull down here, you get a lot of choices and things like that. So there's literally dozens of them. And I'm going to create a line. That's pretty simple, huh? So I just press the create line command, and then that uses, in OpenRoads, it uses the MicroStation tool setting box to give us our options and to look at it that way. What I'm going to do to start out with is create segments, okay, parts of an alignment, and then I'm going to make a complete alignment out of that. So when you're creating the segments, quite frankly, those segments are going to be used to make a main alignment. So the name of the alignment itself would not normally be the name of the road. It could be whatever you want, and I'm going to leave it as the default, which is Geom Baseline here, to make these first pieces. When I make the actual alignment that we're going to continue using and work on, I will give it a name at that point. But at this time, there's not a reason to really name those unless you have some kind of a reason to do that, but it's generally not. And also, what you'll see here is that as soon as you pick any OpenRoads commands, you get what they call a heads-up prompt. And that heads-up prompt says, identify the start point. So I'm going to snap to the middle of the circle here, and then I'm going to move forward on here. And as I move forward, I guess it's kind of hard to see against here, you can see that there's some numbers there which are actually tracking where I am, the length and the distance of there. And it's kind of a weird color that's hard to see, but you can pick your own colors, by the way, and also the bearing. Well, those are the numbers that I'm actually going to key in. So I'm going to start with the distance here, which it's asking me for, and I'm going to key in 546 for the distance, and I'm going to hit the enter key on my keyboard, which puts a padlock on there. Now that padlock means it locks the distance, and now when I move my cursor around here, I'm actually locked in that distance, and the bearing is the only thing that's changing. Also, you can see up here that it put a check mark on there indicating the lock. To unlock, I would hit the End key on my keyboard. That would take away the lock and make that go free. Now, you can also see right beside the number of the distance, there's two arrows going in two different directions, sort of like arrowheads. And that indicates that there's another option there. So if you use a right or left mouse, left arrow key on your keyboard, you can switch over to the bearing, which is another thing I'm going to type in here. So I'm going to type the bearing in. Now, I'm going to use a technique of typing in N for north, and then the degrees is going to be 1. And I'm going to use a colon to separate the degrees, minutes, and seconds. That's one way of doing it. There's other options here. So I'm going to use a colon, and I'm going to put in 33 and colon. And the last one is 0. I really don't need to put that in there, but I'm going to. And then I'm going to put a W in there, so it's a northwest bearing. And I'm going to hit Enter, and then then what that does is it changes the format a little bit, but basically it's 1 degree, 33 minutes, and 0 seconds north going west. All right, and as soon as I've done that, then I have two things that are locked, which actually puts the line in its final position. However, it is still not accepted. All right, I'm still in the command. It still is not complete. It is just in its position, and it shows you where it's going to be using that information. So if I keyed in a bearing and it went this way, and I could see it goes that way, I would know that I had the wrong bearing. So that's a really nice thing to have the visual response here, so I can make a decision of whether I like the result before I actually press the next button. The next button is just a data point, a left mouse click in the screen, and that will accept that piece of geometry and put it in the file. All right, now I can take that piece of geometry and I can use the element selection. And when you're using OpenRoads, the most common way you set up element selection is by using individual and new. When I click on this line right here, then I can come in here and I can change the length, or I can change the bearing by there, and then I have some handles on here where I can move things around and so forth. So these things are kind of hidden until you put your cursor over here. This one right here says move the point any direction. This one is trim or extend. That extends the length or contracts the length. And this one rotates the, somebody's requesting control of the machine. This one over here rotates the line. So just simply, if you did that, you could rotate the line, or you could extend it and do it graphically, or you could change the numbers down here. So those are the editing capabilities of a single line, and that should make you happy. Particular computer, and by the way, when you click on one of these and you click on a line or any geometry or anything practically, you highlight it using the select button from MicroStation. If you put your cursor over top of it, then you get a bunch of commands. Yes.
Sorry, your speaker's breaking up a little bit, I think, on my end.
Oh my.
I didn't know if that's...
Not much I know about that. I'm on a landline. I'm on a regular line here. It's not Wi-Fi or anything. So I'm giving you the best I've got.
Okay.
So it's still breaking up. I kind of have to know if you hear me or not, if there's a problem with the internet.
No, I guess I wasn't hearing you. I think it started out fine. You were doing fine, and just here lately, it's gotten a little choppy.
I'm really sorry. Yep, this is some of the things that we're going to experience in this virtual world here, and I don't know what else I can do about it.
It sounds better now.
Good.
You sound...
Well, if I'll tell you what, if I'm breaking up and you notice that, would you please tell me, and then I can repeat what I've said or go back a little bit.
Yes,
okay.
I'll do that.
All right. So when you highlight the line, you're going to get a bunch of options here, and these are very quick commands that you can pull from the from the ribbon menu up top here, but they're also available to you here. One of the common ones would be maybe properties. When you click on that, you could change the name of it, you could change the feature definition, you could change the length, and you can do things that way too. There's other ways of accessing the data. And also, by the way, when you click on a line, it also becomes part of your properties, and you can change things in there from MicroStation type of things. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on a command called the chain here. And I'm really just following the book here. So if you go through the book, you've already got a head start on it. There's a button down here in the feature called chain. And what that means is when I draw lines, it will actually chain them together as far as not having to stop to the beginning and end. It's almost the equivalent of a little bit of using the difference between the place line command and the smart line, if you're familiar with that. And I'll show you the difference here. So I'm going to continue here, and I'm going to place the lines, and I'm going to snap to the end of that line, and then I'm going to go to the next circle, and then I'm going to snap to the middle of that circle. And notice now I'm continuing on. If I did not have the chain command on, it would stop right there, and then I'd have to snap back to there and go forward. Okay, so that's a nice advantage there. And I'm going to go to this next one here and just quickly lay out a couple of tangents, and you can see that they line up fairly well with the ortho photo that's underneath them. When you're done, you right click. All right, so that's basically snapping between those points. All right, now what do we have so far? All right, that's the big question. What we have are a series of individual alignments. There's an alignment there, there's one there, there's one there. This is not a continuous alignment. There are pieces of an alignment. Can we do this and have it be all one alignment without having to make the pieces? The answer is yes. We have specific commands that do that. One of them is called complex by PI, and that allows you to place the curves and the lines at the same time. So don't think that this is the only way to do that. Right now, we're creating it by pieces, and that is a popular way to do it. It's basically just creating a bunch of pieces of the alignment, and then eventually we'll chain all those pieces together to make one alignment. So we're kind of in this exercise, we're showing you more of the harder way to do it. The easy way might be to go over here and use this complex by PI command, and just draw. You could just draw the PIs, and it'll put the curves in right away. So we're kind of doing it a little bit harder, but it actually gives you more flexibility to do it this way. All right, the next thing we're going to do is put some curves in here. So I'm going to go over here to the arcs here. That's where all the curves are. And the one I want is going to be the simple arc. Simple arc, so it's arc between elements and simple arc. All right, and now it gives me some prompts here. And I'm going to uncheck this here. I could do it that way. It's giving me some prompts. And the first prompt that you get there is to locate the first element. All right, so I'm going to pick this element here as my first element. Then it says locate, whoops. Then it says locate the second element. I'm going to pick that one. And now this is on a rubber band. And by the way, you could put the curve here or here or here. There's 4 locations for it to go. There's only one right one, but it's very big right now. So if you know the radius, and I do, it's 600 feet. So I'm going to type in 600 in that box there, 600. Oh my. I'm just having trouble now. My keyboard isn't working. And lock it. And now you can see it doesn't go, where does it belong? Does it go on that side, or does it go way down here? Boy. So it really belongs over here. Doesn't even fit in those other areas. And I'm going to accept it in that. So you basically move your cursor to where it looks correct. Colors here are kind of hard to see, I think. And you click. Then it says, do you want to trim and extend? And this is a very important one. The answer is yes, you want to trim and extend. And the question is, what do you want to trim and extend? Normally it defaults with the correct answer. We want to trim and extend both. And what that will do is it'll get rid of these tangents behind here. And so we're going to accept that. And now you can see the tangents go away. And that, what they call, creates a rule. And the rule means that, by the way, since it's hard to see this, I'm going to change the color and show you how to do that. And my bad, I should have probably done this earlier. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Settings. I'm going to go to Preferences. And here is the color right here. And I'm going to change it to yellow maybe. Let's see. And do that. And now when I click on things, it'll come up at a yellow color. The things that are not part of the alignment, what they call the manipulators. All right, so we did a trim and extend, and that basically tied these in nicely at the ends, creates what they call a rule, and that rule means that when I change this value here, let's change it to 700, let's say, and hit enter, that it retrimmed and re-extended over here. So it retrimmed it on both sides. If I made it smaller, it would make it fit. So that's a very important one to use and to make sure is correct. And now I could use the undo command here to get it back to 600 if I wanted to. That's just the MicroStation undo. All right, now let's do the rest of these curves here the same exact way. So I come over here and I click over here, and I'm going to click the first tangent, click the second tangent, and now it says 600. This one happens to be 10,000. So it's a very flat curve. So I'm going to put in 10,000 as the answer. Hit enter. You can see what it looks like or how far the radius is going to go. Which side does it go on? This is a curve to the right, so you want to move your cursor to the right. Otherwise, it would be on the wrong side. And we click, and of course, we trim both again. And there's one last curve up here that I'm going to do, and of course, that's a curve to the left. By the way, since I was drawing in this direction, the stationing is going upward. You can reverse that if you want. I'll do the last one over here. This is the first tangent. This is the second tangent. And it's to the left, but this one has a different radius, and this one is 2100. And I just move my cursor over there. It's not over there. You have to move your cursor to the left. It says select the construction sector. It's always a good idea to read those prompts. And then we trim both. Make sure that you do that part too. All right. And actually what they want me to do is to go back to the beginning here, to this first one here, and change this to 700 like I did. I just did it a little early and undid it. All right. So I'm kind of just following along in the book. All right. The next thing we're going to do is now, not only do we have these tangents as alignments, individual curves are their own alignment right now. So we have many alignments, 1, 2, 3, you can count them. I think there's 6 or so, or maybe more. So each one of these is an alignment, but we don't want that. We want one alignment that goes the whole way. How do we do that? Well, we go over to this complex area over here, create complex geometry, and we do this command called complex by element. That is equivalent, sort of like the MicroStation chain command. So I click that, and this is the place now where I would give it a name. And I'm going to call this London Road. All right, and it's still using this feature definition. Oh, it's not. Yeah, so here it is. You want to make sure that's on. Somehow that got unchecked here. It's called using the active feature definition, which means it's using the one that's down here that's locked. It's automatic, which means when I click on it, there's going to be an arrow there, and it's pointing in the direction of a head stationing. So if you move your cursor this way, you can see the arrows going down. That would be the wrong direction of stationing. The stationing is going from south to north, so I'm going to move my cursor down and have that arrow point up. When I click, it highlights the entire alignment, and then I have a last click which accepts it. Now I have a horizontal alignment, one alignment like that, and I can change its radiuses, but because it has a color. But if you see anything that's gray, that means that it is ruled, and you cannot change it directly like this. And I will show you how to change that if you need to. So if it's gray, you can't just click on it and change the number. So how do I make that not gray? Well, I hold my cursor on top of the line, and then I right-click. So I select, and then I right-click. And then what happens is the line that's underneath that, remember that one that we created between these two? That's where the direction and bearing are coming from. So I had to get down to find that line underneath it to be able to pull up that so I can change its bearing or its direction, which affects the alignment. So sometimes these, when you click on these, sometimes these will be have color to them, and they will be editable. And then the ones that are white are read only until you get to the underpinning element underneath it. I know that's a little confusing, but that's what it is. All right, the next thing is, how do I review this geometry? All right, I have it here. I can go over to the Explorer. The Explorer window you get up by using this, go to the Home tab, and you go hit Explorer, and that brings up this window here. In the Explorer, I want to go to the tab that says OpenRoads Model. I click down on there, I click under Alignments, I click under, that's the name of the feature definition, and when I highlight that alignment right there, it highlights over here. And underneath there, all the pieces that we created in the beginning are underneath there too. So all the dependencies of these lines that we made, the construction type lines that we made, are under there too. All right, now if I right click on here, I can do a lot of different things. The one thing I want to do here is to get a report. And that's one of the things you can do. So the report is right here under Geometry Report, and I'm going to bring that up. All right, so one thing I want you to notice about the report is that the beginning station is 0. It's always going to be 0 to begin with until we change it. This is a very dynamic report. You can print this, you can send it to Excel, you can do things like that. You can look at any other reports that are in here and print them. And also, if you like let's say I like this table one right here, that's my favorite report. I can right click on here and set it as the default geometry, and then that is the report that will come up by default. That's the first one that'll come up, and I can change it after the fact. Another thing you can do in these reports very quickly is you can go over here to Reports and Format Options, and I can change the precision of things. If I want to see my stationing here, it has 3 decimal places. Let's say that's not my requirement. It's 2 decimals. I change it there. I close that, and now I have my 2 decimal format. I can also save these as a Word document, Excel, and various other formats. All right, so that's the report. The next thing we'll do here is I'm going to notice it's highlighted, and I like to get into a habit of clicking away here and not highlighting things when I'm working in OpenRoads. Sometimes it's advantageous to highlight things and then do the command. Sometimes it's easier to click on things when you're doing the command rather than have something already highlighted or selected, I should say. So now we're going to do a little bit of modifying, and we're going to put a beginning station on this alignment and make sure that that happened. So I go under Modify here, and I pick Start Station. It's still in the horizontal world. I click on the alignment. It says Locate the element. Then it says give me the start distance. That's where the start station is going to be applied, where the station that I'm going to put is going to be applied. If you know the station, like at this point right here, and you don't know it at the beginning, then you make that distance there your start distance, and then key in the station that you know for that, and it'll make it work right. The stationing from there will fall back accurately and ahead accurately if you don't know the beginning station where the alignment starts. In this case, I do. It's going to start at the beginning. I'm going to click past there, and the beginning station is going to be 50. Now, when you do that, let's say I want to change the beginning station. I could just come over here, highlight the alignment, and since I applied a beginning station here, there's the distance, the location, and there's the starting station. I could just change it right there interactively. And now I'll show you another way to get the report. which is up here on the heads-up prompts. They call these context-sensitive tools. That little report button is right there. Let's click on that, and we should now see that the beginning station there is 50, since we just set it to 50. All right, the next thing we want to do is annotate this alignment. Put the stationing on it, label it. That is done. And I'm going to move this out of the way, I'm hoping. It's under drawing production. I'm not an expert at this medium. So I'm going to go to drawing production here. And inside drawing production, there's a way that you can annotate an element or annotate the model. Model does everything in the file. Annotate element does one element at a time. That's more appropriate here. So we're going to do annotate element. We click on that button there. It says, what element do you want to annotate? I click on that one. It says, do you have any other ones? I say no. By right clicking, reset is right clicking, and that'll put the stationing on this alignment. That stationing is dynamic, by the way. So if I were to change anything about this alignment, all these stations would update, all the information would update. You don't have to get rid of it and put it back or anything. It's there for now, for good if you want it. You could get rid of it if you don't want to see it, but it will update from now on. That's a beautiful thing. All right, so that's a very, very quick how to lay out a proposed or an existing alignment. All right, the next thing we're going to do is move into doing the vertical alignment. All right. One of the things we need for a vertical alignment generally is the existing ground. We do not have that. So I'm going to attach a reference file that has the existing ground in it. So I'm going to go to Home and Attach, and I'm going to do the Attach here, and I'm going to pick Terrain Existing. And I'm going to open that up and bring that in. And now you can see it out here. That is my terrain model. All right. So it's by the way, terrain models are generally in a 3D file. So I'm attaching a 3D file to a 2D file. That's okay. Now, when I look at this right here, this thing here says View 1, and then it says Default here. Default is the name of the model that View 1 is. Okay, and generally I like to tell people that let OpenRoads change the model names or do the model management as far as the names, because everybody's used to that. So generally I would not recommend changing the model names. Now maybe you don't know what models are, or you haven't used them much. Okay, so under models up here, this is my model, and it is a design model. That's what that indicates there. And it is 2D. Well, actually, this indicates 2D. This indicates that it's a design model. So this is a 2D model. All right. Now, when I there's a couple things. When I do anything in the 2D file that generates a 3D object, there will be a new model created automatically in this file that is called default-3D. All right, and we don't have it yet. So what makes that happen? And if I were to have lots of things make it happen, but one of the most common things that make it happen is to set the terrain model active in your file. So let's do that. So I'm going to highlight the terrain model, and I'm going to use the heads-up context-sensitive commands and pick the second one here, which is set as active. And that's going to generate the 3D model. Immediately, I get this thing called default 3D. So the way OpenRoads works throughout is that we have a 2D model, which is called default, and you do most of your work in the 2D model. And then you look in the 3D model to see the results in 3D. Okay, that's a hard concept to, everybody who knows OpenRoads knows about that. And if you don't know, that's a very important prospect. So How do I get to see the 3D model? Well, I can do what they call a hard right click. Hard right click means hold your right mouse button down inside the view. And then I can go to view control here, and I can pick this one. I want two views, one being the plan view and one being the 3D. And there's all these options in here. So I'm going to pick that one. So, unpin toolbar. Let's see if I can move. Okay, there it is. I got rid of it. All right. So this is a 3D model right here. And I can rotate this in 3D. And that's my terrain model. That's the only thing I have 3D. So the way this is going to work is that anything that OpenRoads creates that's 3D will appear in the 3D model automatically. All right. So I get to work in 2D and have all that nicety of not having to worry about the third dimension while I'm doing my design, but then I can see what my 3D model looks like as I'm designing it, which is a wonderful thing. All right. And of course, when you're looking at these models, this default one here is that one. And that's your normal drawing model. And then you have the default 3D, which is that one. Now remember that these are two separate files inside of one. So this file can have all different reference files than this one. It's possible. Okay. So you have to manage that. And
Dan, somebody asked the question, can you delete the 3D file once it's created?
no, you cannot. This right here, this default 3D cannot be deleted out of the file. Okay? It will not let me do that. And you don't want to create your own brand new one like that by yourself. You let the software do that. Okay? So glad to take that any further, but no, you can't. And it's not going to hurt anything. So what do you do with this 2D and 3D? Okay? Just very quickly is when I'm attaching other OpenRoads files, I attach them to the 2D view, and then anything that's 3D in that file will appear in here. So it meshes the 3D models together automatically by attaching 2D to 2D. If I have something I want to attach to the 3D, can I do that? Yes, I can. It's generally not done. Maybe you might want to attach a bridge model to the 3D that's already like a 3D bridge. That would be something you might attach to the 3D model. But generally, in OpenRoads, you only attach things to the 2D side, unless it's a 3D object. That's not part of OpenRoads. OpenBridge Modeler, you guys are going to try to use that, I'm sure. That would be attached to the 3D model, not 2D, because it's a 3D file. Okay, I hope that explained it a little bit more. All right, now what do I get out of this? I get the ability now to make a profile. So I'm going to use my element selection command. I'm going to pick on the alignment, and I'm going to use this first command the second command in here called Open Profile Model. Now, the prompt says open or select or open a view. I'm going to open up view 4, and now I'm going to select it. And now I have my profile of my existing ground in here. All right. Okay. Now, how do you read this? Well, number one, it's very cool. It shows you the ahead stationing here. So if I select the profile window, it shows me arrows as the direction of station in the plan view. These lines right here are the curves. The PC, PT of each of the curves. If there were spirals, you'd see extra lines on there. So that's really nice. And this is a dynamic profile. This is not the one you plot. That's another course. But this is the one where you actually create your vertical alignment, and that's my next step. One other thing you could do, and people have asked for, can you do this? And we show this in the training. I can set the existing ground as the active vertical alignment, and I'm going to do that right there. And what that'll do is now show me this alignment in here that's running directly. It's a vertical alignment now that's running directly along the ground, and it's every place it crosses a triangle, it has elevation. So can you use the existing ground as your vertical alignment? Sometimes they call that graphic grade or something of that nature, and the answer is yes. All right, the next thing we're going to do is create the vertical alignment. All right, so that you don't have to set the existing ground active. That's something that I'm showing you because people want to sometimes run their project on the existing ground and they don't want a vertical alignment. They don't want to have to create one because they don't need one. All right, so that's all I'm telling you there. All right, the next thing is that we're going to create the vertical, and we're going to turn on the chain command again, and we're going to make the tangents of this here. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to go to geometry, and there's a thing called civil toggles. When you click on civil toggles, that brings up what they call civil AccuDraw. And we're going to use that. That's for precision input. It even gives you more input for station offset, for all kinds of things like that. So this is our additional input commands. So I'm going to turn it on here. And when you're clicked on a profile, it gives you these commands here. When you're clicked on the plan view, it gives you different ones. So wherever the, whatever view is active dictates here which things to use, whether it's plan or profile. Okay, so this switches look from plan and profile. So you have to remain active, and active means this is a lighter gray than this. This is the active view, therefore it's giving me the profile commands. The other one I would want to set here is the Z command. This is going to give me station and elevation key-ins. All right, and I'm just going to dock that for now. I don't need that right now. It's already set. I'll turn it off in a minute here, and ready to place my first line. Now, all the vertical tools are up here. So I'm going to use the line command here and do the same thing I did before and make lines. And when I'm down below here, I see the station and elevation. All right, and if I didn't have Civil AccuDraw on, all I would see there would enter start point. I would not see station elevation. That's what's coming from the from Civil AccuDraw. That station and Z value comes from Civil AccuDraw. Without it, it would just say identify start point, which means you'd have to snap or know that thing. So the first one is going to be station 50. You don't have to put the plus sign in. And the Z value is going to be 167.74. All right, and it puts a little marker where that's going to be before I even accept it. So that gives me a warm and fuzzy that it's in the right place. So now I click. Now it gives me some notification of what the slope is and things like that, and the length. And those are just informational at this point. And now I'm going to key in another station for the second one, and that's going to be 5716. Hit enter to lock it. And now notice now it's stuck at 5716, but now the slope, the elevation is changing because it's not locked. And I type in 172.31 for the elevation, hit that, and that's where it's going to be right there. And I'm going to click. And now I'm putting the next one in. All right, the next one, at this point, I'm done showing you the Civil AccuDraw. I put in 2 points like that. I'm going to turn it off. Now watch what happens when I turn it off. See the station elevation there? And now I don't have it. Now I'm going to just use the regular key-ins from this point forward because I know the lengths and I know the slopes. And that's the two values that we're going to key in here. So the length for the first one is going to be, for this next one, is going to be 700. I'm going to lock that and holds it at 700 feet for length. And I'm going to use my right arrow key to pick up the slope. And that slope is going to be -2. And you don't have to put the percentage in. It'll lock at -2%. I like the way it looks, and I'm going to click. The next one is going to be 1200 for the length. Hit enter. and now I'll use my right arrow key, and this slope is going to be a 1%. Click. And then the last one is going to be 940 for the length. Sorry, that's on top of there, 940. Enter. And then the slope of this one is going to be a minus 0.5. So minus 0.5, enter, and then click. All right. So now I have 4 vertical alignments. If I click on any one of these vertical alignments, I can change its slope or its length or whatever and edit them using these, what they call, these are the manipulator values. All right. I'm going to put the curves in next. Here comes the curves. All right. The curves that we're going to put in here are going to be what they call parabolic curves between elements. So I go up to the curves icon, I go to curve between elements, and I use parabolic between elements. All right. I click on the first. It's just like the horizontal. I click on the first one, I click on the second one, and then it says, what length are you and where do you want me to put you? And this length's going to be 300. That's the length of curve. And I could put it up high, which would be the wrong answer, or I could put it up low, and 1 is the right answer. The solution for 1 is the right answer, and then I trim both. That has given me another alignment right here, which I can change its slope and its width, and this is the K value or the R value, depending on how the software is set up. And that's just another alignment. So I have one alignment here, one here, one here, and they're all separate alignments. Now I'll go over here and do the same for these.
Dan, there's a question. Can you incorporate design standards like a minimum R, minimum K?
Yes, you can.
Design speeds.
Absolutely. It would be done, very good question. It would be done using, I'm sorry, I picked the wrong one here, under Standards, Design Standards Toolbar. And just very quickly here, I'm not going to, this is part of more of an advanced course, and we do actually teach these in courses. You pick the AASHTO method that you want, and you pick start and stop distance, and then you set this here, and it will actually lock you into the AASHTO methods, and you can customize this any way you want. It can also check too. If you already placed the alignment and you want to check to see if it meets these standards, then you use this button. Okay? So yes, yeah. You can. Good question. All right, here we go. I'm going to continue on this same idea here. This one I'm going to do a little bit differently. I'm going to hit this one, and rather than putting in the length, I'm going to use my right arrow key and key in a K value, 171, and lock that. K values and lengths are a function of one another, so I only key in one of those. And now it's given me, actually it shows me up here, the length is 513. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to trim and extend both, and then I'll do the same thing on this last one.
While you're doing that one, somebody had asked the question, does the Civil AccuDraw work, is it available in cross sections too, when you did that and it added the extra?
It does. It'll actually locate the station elevation in there. It's not a key in. It's just more of a tracking tool for cross sections. So it's not. It doesn't. We don't have any key ins for cross sections, but it will track on a cross section if you try to use it that way. All right. One of the last things I'm going to do here is now make this a single alignment. All right. And same thing, except we do it over here under vertical. It's called complex geometry, and we're going to do profile complex by elements. It's set to automatic, and then we would give it a name, and I'll call it London Road Vertical. That's the name of it. All right. It says locate the first element. This one I don't have to go. It's only going to go one way because the stationing only goes one way. It highlights them all, and then I accept it. Now I have a single alignment here. And notice some of these are grayed out because they're based on the underneath parts. And I can change here if I wanted to. If I wanted to change this to a 400-foot length, I could just change it right there, and it changes everything and so forth. And if I need to get to the underpinnings, it's the same technique. You right-click here, and it goes down to the thing that makes up the underpinning of this, which was the original line we placed here. And I could change that slope and distance there. Okay, same concept. And if I hold my cursor over it, it should say London Road Vertical. If I hold my cursor over this one, it'll say London Road. Oh, it didn't. I must have missed that step or something. But can I change it? Yeah. I can change this to London Road.
Dan, can we temporarily label or annotate a profile file?
No, not in. You can't label it in here. You can actually draw things in here. You can put your own notes in here. Anything that you put in here, MicroStation wise, will be remembered. But we didn't. The labeling tools don't work here. They work when you actually create a sheet profile. Okay, when you actually to get this profile to be able to label it. Other than, I mean, you could label it this way by putting your cursor over it, and that shows me all the information. But then you would have to go over the name boundaries here, and then you'd create a profile here, and then that would be automatically labeled. So no, this is a temporary profile that does not have the annotation or anything like that in it. All right, and then the last thing I want to do here is, first of all, let's get a report on that. And we'll kind of wrap this up and maybe open up for questions here. So I'm going to get a report on this. And this is going to be my vertical alignment report. And anything that says vertical down here, I can switch to those reports and change the format of it by just moving around in here and set one that's that I like as the right one. And then the last thing is, you always really want to do this, is take this alignment here. If this is your main line, your main line, and this is your grade line, you need to set that active. So right now it's active as the existing ground. So I want to set it as this. And now in here, this will match that. So this line and this line gives you the 3D line. And that's where I would now run a corridor on here with templates and things like that. That would be one of my next steps to move ahead on this. All right. Well, that was pretty fast and furious. I'm open for questions or any additional things that I didn't really cover here. We have a couple more minutes here. I don't want to keep you late for going back to work.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Just let everybody know the chat box is working. So if you have any questions, you want to type them in the chat box, please. You can do that now. Going back to the alignments, I think somebody asked, can you delete the individual components and still retain just the complex alignment?
No. If you build them by components, then those components are used as the foundation of the constructed alignment. So no, you can't delete them.
Can you export it to a GPK file?
The only export that we have is, and I'm pretty sure this is, land XML is how you're going to get that back to Geopack, it sounds like to me. So we have import and export. So if I do export geometry, our formats here are on the top here. I'll bring them down into the middle here. Land XML and these other types of formats. So in order to get it back, if you wanted to take this back to Geopack, you would have to export this to Land XML and then open Land XML inside of Geopack.
Okay.
Same for inroads too, by the way.
All right, we got another question. What happens when you have overlapping vertical curves? Will it, I guess, alert you And then will the grade stores or do you get an error message?
What'll happen is, and I don't think this is a very good data set to show it, but I could try. It's going to look really funky. And so I can show you, and you'll also get some red in here. There's going to be like red objects in here. So let's change this to, let's say maybe 1,000 would make it work. More. 1,500. There we go. Normally, quite frankly, if you're trying to create this, it's going to get, right now, since I've edited it, it's just going to look funny. I have seen in the past where as you create them, they'll give you these red kind of error messages as you're doing it. So unfortunately, by editing it, at least, you're not going to be notified other than visual. But if you're editing by clicking on that and changing it, you should be able to notice that it's not continuous anymore based on numbers that don't make sense. Another way, I think that there's a report also, by the way, that would help you determine whether there's something wrong with this. And that report is going to be called the vertical, it's called the vertical alignment check integrity. And so what you're going to see here is if you want to see all zeros over here as the difference to the next element. If you see numbers in here, that means that there's a gap. So that's another way. We have the same one for horizontal too, if that happens too. That'll warn you also if there's a problem with a tangentiality. So that basically, if you see anything out here, that indicates that there's a tangential issue. So if you know what I'm saying. Tangential doesn't make a lot. I mean, it sort of makes sense in vertical world, but in the other world, it doesn't. So
and did that report also give you like a low point on the sag?
Yeah, I believe so. So let me undo this. That is something we should have that information because we can annotate that. So I can't imagine that it's not in here somewhere, but I'm sort of guessing. Oh, wait a minute, wrong place. Let's see. We annotate the low point, but I don't know if we report on it. So if that's something that you need to have it in the report, I don't see it. So if that's something you need in the report, then I would submit that as a change request if that's something we need. I don't see it in any of these reports necessarily. So I guess the
there
answer
it is.
no.
It's listed. There's vertical high. I see vertical high point in that write up.
Oh.
Yeah. VLP at the
top. Right. Okay.
Right there, 65. Yep. Okay.
Okay. Good. So it is in one of the reports. Yeah. Good. Thank you. I just didn't know if it was or wasn't. I know we annotated for sure. So like when you were to get a profile of this, and I guess that could be my last little hurrah here, is to go over here and make a real profile out of this.
Okay.
And then I'm not teaching you how to do this. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. Okay. Let's go take a look at a different one here.
Dan, are there any auto grade best fit functions like to pre-do your alignment? You know.
There's the high point, by the way.
Okay.
So we do have best fit analysis. So under geometry, I think we do have a best fit, if that's what they're asking for. So it's define profile by best fit in the vertical world. There's one for horizontal too.
Okay. All right. Well, we're right at 1 o'clock now.
Yep.
I appreciate the overview, Dan. It was great. A lot of
Thanks.
information there. I think people can go back and start using it, and practical things they're going to be using every day. So I just want to remind everybody that you can get PDH for this course, but if you came in as a guest or you called in with a phone number, that you just need to make sure that we got your name and listed. And then also you need to make sure you're registered via our website so that we can link it to your PDH number, your PE number. So yeah, hey.
You've only got your first name or initials as your team name. Make sure that you change that, or the next time, or send us an email. Make sure that we have your full name so we can match it up to the registration.
Great. And as of right now, we've got more events planned for the next coming weeks. You'll be getting invites for them as they come along. So I know that we're booked up until through September, and we're looking to host these every week. So stay tuned for those. If there's some topic you want covered, just send us an email at events@nclug.com, and we'll look at trying to get that on the books. And then be sure to share the invites with others in your office so that we get more people invited and join our membership. That'd be great. And our winner today for our $50 Amazon gift card is Malcolm Watson. So congratulations, Malcolm. We'll be reaching out to you with the details about that. So I appreciate Dan for your presentation today. And we look forward to seeing everybody in the coming weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And we are recording this session, so it will be available. Might take us a week to get it up there, but it should be available within the coming weeks on our website. So,
okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Be safe, folks. Thank you.